Succession is characterized in many ways by its relationship dynamics, with Jesse Armstrong's living and breathing world here being such a natural foundation for organic character work to blossom, thrive, and then decay. It is such a joy to see how and why these characters end up in the places they end up, defined in many ways by those very relationships that got them there in the first place. Logan and Kendall, Logan and Shiv, Logan and Roman, Greg and Tom, Tom and Shiv. These are the bread and butter of this story, and as a result, these are what people tend to take away most from it. But as much as this narrative is defined by a lot of its broad strokes dynamics, it is the brush strokes that help to enrich the canvas of its story. The little details go such a long way, and today we're going to be discussing what is in my opinion one of the best and most subtle relationships in the entire show. Not to mention one that ultimately ends up being one of the saddest. It goes without saying that Roman Roy is damaged and broken as a person. He is withdrawn behind layers and layers of sarcasm, odd humor, snark, and awkwardness in bizarre compensation. But behind this all, and what it comes down to in the end, is that he is extremely starved of love. And of course, his siblings are just as much so, but their coping mechanisms involve reaching out for varying things. Approval, reputation, glory, being worthy of their name, in order to obtain what they never had from Logan. And yet Roman is the one who most directly, so desperately craves affection. While all three are damaged because of the way in which their father expressed his love, Roman is the one who most directly fixates on being emotionally nurtured. He reaches out for that intimacy and cares more about the idea of love than anyone.
Dad. Please.
Please?
Please.
What have you got in your fucking hand?
What have I got? I don't know. Fucking love?
Now, as I discussed in my video on him, Connor was starved of love as well, never finding much except an obligatory, cold, quote-unquote fatherly pat on the back, and he lived his life dismissed, forgotten, and unloved. And yet, he reaches out for and loves his siblings in spite of that, and maybe partly because of that. And that is clear throughout the time span of the entire show. In the middle of this interfamilial feud, right before his wedding, he just wants to have a regular, mundane, fun family night out with them drinking and singing karaoke. But even that turns into a farce almost immediately as they pay pretty much no attention to him and seem to consider this night something that they must tolerate. They speak about business, leave their brother out, complain, deride, and then fight with Logan as Connor resigns himself to his lot in life. As he says, he can live without their love.
You're needy love sponges. And I'm a plant that grows on rocks and lives off insects that die inside of me.
Jesus Christ, God.
If Willa doesn't come back, that's fine. Because I don't need love. It's like a superpower.
But while Connor ultimately concluded that he can live without love, it's not like he didn't try, and there are several implications throughout the story that, perhaps due to Logan's absence, but undoubtedly in his absence, he tried his best to care for his siblings. As Sebastian Carver pointed out in my last Succession video, Roman recalls this extremely fond memory of a camping trip when they were all kids. He stated originally that he went with his dad, but when Logan said that he didn't remember doing that, Roman realized that it was actually Connor that took them. It really does seem like Connor made an extra effort to try to be there for his siblings to compensate for Logan's mistreatment, but also simply because he loved them, and wanted to. He wanted to have a normal, loving bond with his brothers and sister. One of the hardest hitting lines in the series for me is when Connor says that when they were young, he was still old enough to remember how bad things were. And so in response, he knew exactly what it meant for both him and them for him to make an effort to be there. Again, just like I said in my Connor video, he isn't this perfect great guy, and he has plenty of notable flaws as a person. But there is quite a contrast between the warmth he seems to exude to those who need it most, and a lot of the rest of the relationships in the story.
Well, how about you, Lead? Is there some sort of childhood story that you'd like to tell?
I got a memory in the old Bankiola. It's a fly fishing in Montana, if
Sure.
that interests you.
Thank you, Mr. Roy.
Hey, Rome. How you doing?
I've just been on TV waxing lyrical about me and Dad out murdering trout and singing sea shanties around the old marshmallow hole.
So what's this, fishing thing? I don't remember.
Oh yeah, that was Connor, actually. Connor took me on that. But you know, single, multi-use, happy childhood memory, so yeah.
The idea for this camping trip was for it to be a genuine, loving, connecting experience to allow the kids to be kids and bond. And that is something Logan would never have done. But Connor went on it with them, to try to be that older brother, that figure in their life to look up to for guidance and affection. They were all being deprived of that, and he knew all too well the pain of that deprivation. However, it unfortunately seems to have gone unappreciated on a conscious level. Because Kendall, blind to a wider perspective, self-interested and tunnel-visioned, recalls this as an event he can use to beat up on Connor to feel cool, at a party where Connor showed up to simply show support for Kendall, without needing to be there for business reasons or for Gojo. As he's done throughout his life, Connor simply wanted to express his love and support, because he cares for his family. Yet, what happens when he gets there? He gets harassed for his silly coat, generally treated like the afterthought that he is, and worst of all, he is made the butt of a dark and over-the-line joke for the accident in his sleeping bag by the brother he tried to comfort during that trip. There is no professional recourse for bullying Connor, and with him at the bottom of the totem pole, it's easy to bully Connor. And so, everyone bullies Connor.
Did, however, actually shit your bag.
Yeah, you know why? Because I took you two fucking assholes on a camping trip because Dad couldn't be bothered. That's why. I ate some bad fucking fish. This is bullshit.
Okay. Hey, excuse me. Hey, can we...
And yet, there is subtle implication throughout that Connor's kindness and care for his siblings did not go completely unappreciated, and it is extremely fitting that the appreciator was the one most starved of that love. All of the siblings are needy love sponges, as Connor puts it, but Roman is the one who most needs genuine connection, nourishment, and affection, which is why I think he appreciated Connor's kindness a significant amount. In the early stages of the series, while things are peppered with digs and cuts and cynicism, Roman actually displays quite a care for Connor. He's the nicest to him in the bachelor party episode, trying to ensure that he has a good time, and generally hanging out with him and seeming kinda happy to do so. And it's just a little detail, but it goes a long way for me. There are also little lines here and there that make it clear that Roman likes Connor and that Connor's care was not left unappreciated, futile, and unreciprocated. But to me, the scene that hits the hardest in this regard is during Connor's wedding, when all four siblings finally learn with finality that Logan has died. There are genuinely touching interactions all over the place in this episode, but to me one of the most beautiful was this reach out from Roman to Connor. It's awkward, honest, and raw, just this broken boy who has been bereft of love his entire life reaching out for the person who has maybe shown him the most of the type of affection he craved, and he needed it in this moment. Connor cared for and loved his siblings, and Roman appreciated that as the one who needed it the most, and I think that is encapsulated by this one small gesture in this storm of confusion and grief. But these interactions are far too sparse to leave an impact and define their relationship as positive overall. And the saddest thing to me is the contrast between them and the other interactions between the two. Roman provoking Connor by telling him that he molested him as a kid. Roman joining in with the Connor disillusionment many a time. And just as the defining moment of the beauty of their relationship was in Season 4, so too is the defining moment of the ugliness of their relationship. As Roman, still reeling from his father's death and finding his business and personal ventures crumbling around him, lashes out on the one person that he's been able to lash out on his entire life. The one man who's consistently tried to care for him.
Con, man, eat the fucking carrot, okay? Everyone in this room thinks you're a fucking joke. So tell your wife to shut the fuck up, cover her shoulders, and pack a fucking bag for Oman, okay?
Bro.
I'm talking here. It's okay.
Easy.
There's one person here who doesn't think I'm a joke. So that's who I'm going to listen to. Okay?
That's smart. Yeah, listen to her.
Willa, honey.
Yeah.
The most prominent thing to take away from this scene is how Connor has learned to be happy with the only relationship in his life that has true meaning and affection, and how interestingly empowering that is. But a more underlying and sad element to this is that it is the last straw and end of any possibility of Roman finding the love he needs through Connor. I feel like he's burnt that bridge, and it's sad for the both of them, but more so for the one who needs it more. Connor is present, available, supportive, and ready to throw all the love he can at his siblings, but for so many unfortunate reasons, none of them are interested in reciprocating. Yet the one that hurts the most is Roman, because due to his personal situation, a loving brotherly relationship could have ended up being his saving grace and the impetus to turn his life around. And I think on some level he realizes this, but he is too broken to act on it and allow his heart and affection to shine through his cynicism, self-interest, and pain. To me, one of the biggest tragedies of Succession is that this family has all the right people to fulfill all the right needs, but due to their upbringing and experiences, they are incapable of acting on this and hurt each other instead. And so, Shiv will continue to find it difficult to love anyone. Kendall will continue to set ablaze his life in pursuit of being number one. Connor will likely be the closest one to fine out of the kids, but Roman may never find the love he desires because of the walls he has put up due to that very void. And as a result, a beautiful relationship that could have bloomed between him and his brother may very well go unexplored and unfulfilled forever. Many thanks for watching.